Whether you play games or not, I'm sure you've heard about the ESRB. These rating systems have been around since 1993. Now, I won't go into the full history of them, maybe in another video, but what you need to know is that they were created as a means to let parents and adults know what to expect in certain games. Back in the 90s, many games were coming out that were deemed too violent or too scary for children. Mortal Kombat, of course, was the big one being pushed to fight for a new age rating system, mainly due to the game having blood and gore. There's also the infamous Night Trap, which was also deemed too violent and too scary. Shield your eyes, everyone! From the terrifying Legend of the Hidden Temple sort of game. This got so big that in 1993 and 94, the Senate held congressional hearings to determine how these violent video games could be impacting people, and more specifically, kids. The main argument that everyone was trying to make here was, oh, but think of the children! Fast forward some legal talk, and we were introduced to the Entertainment Software Ratings Board, otherwise known as the ESRB. Since then, the ESRB has given ratings to different games to show people what to expect. Many changes have happened to these rating systems, but these are the ratings we have now. E is for everyone, not a lot of violence or blood. E10 and up, bit more violence, but still nothing crazy. Teen, there might be some more violence or gambling than the other games, but honestly it's still not too bad. Mature, there is blood and there is strong language that I can't say here. And adults only. I'm not describing them here, you know what kind of games they already are, or at least the majority of them. Personally, I don't have a problem with the rating system we have in America. Is it perfect? Absolutely not. Some games seem to be rated either too high or too low, but for the most part, when I pick up a game that's rated M, I have an idea on what to expect from it. Now, something that's been talked about since it was created was how the ESRB enforces these ratings. For the most part, the ESRB has been very straightforward about their stance on this. These ratings are for the parents to understand what the game has in it at a quick glance. Persona might not look like a violent game on the cover, but looking at this rating would tell someone, hey, don't get this for your 8-year-old kid! There are countless stories out there about parents getting a game for their kid, only to realize later that the game is actually violent or use certain words too graphic for little Tommy's ears. At the end of the day, it's the parents' decision over if they get these games or not. Now, that's not to say that certain companies haven't been stepping up the protection of these kinds of games. When I went out to go get The Last of Us Part 2 at Walmart, I had to show the cashier my license to prove that I was old enough for it. It felt weird having to, but it also made sense from Walmart's perspective. But what about the ESRB themselves? What are they doing to protect the children from these graphic games? They label them and then just step aside? You know what? It's time for them to take a stand. It's time for them to do something more. Protect the children! I take it back, they should just stick with the labeling. So a few months ago, the ESRB had the idea to scan people's face as a means to determine if they're old enough to play it. Specifically, they wanted to ensure that children wouldn't be playing M-rated games. A person would take a picture of their face, send it to Yotai, who work under Epic Games, to see if the picture is real. The AI involved then estimates how old the person in the photo is, and either grants or denies a person certain permissions. They call it the Privacy-Protected Facial Age Estimation. I call it an invasion of privacy. This is absolutely ridiculous. First, the company is clear in saying that after you send the photo of yourself and it estimates how old you are, it immediately deletes the photo. Right. Because I've never heard of a company failing to protect the privacy of their customers before. Now, they did release a statement about the technology. This application makes no mention of using age estimation to prevent children from purchasing and downloading restrictively rated video games. Then why are you making this technology? What other purpose does it have if not to offer exactly this? Later in their statement, they go on to say, ESRB does not have any influence or control over what individual companies, developers, or publishers may decide to do with the technology. including independently using it as an age gate mechanism. You know what they're going to do with it! The only other method I can see this being used for is for making in-app purchases, but the big one companies will be using this is to make sure that children can't play an M-rated game. Now, I also want to be clear about this. This isn't the only instance where this is happening in the world. In China, Tencent Games is now enforcing a curfew for people under 18 based on facial recognition. In 2019, Tencent made it so that people under 18 couldn't play games between 10 p.m. and 8 a.m. They call it the Midnight Patrol, which, while it is a much better sounding name than what we have here in the States, it's the same thing and still pains me to say that people are missing the points. I think it would be a good idea for more control over how easily accessible certain mature games are. If I log on to Steam and try to get a mature rated game, it asks for my birthday, even if I'm not logged in. Good in theory, but it has no real way to see how old I actually am. Passwords can also be added onto certain accounts to ensure that games can only be bought by the person the account is run by, but again, these passwords can be found by kids. At the end of the day, it's up to the parent, caregiver, or anyone in between to determine what their kid plays. It is extremely easy for a kid to see any of these games at a moment's notice. Hatred, one of those adults-only games I was talking about earlier, yeah, here's the full game on YouTube. Your kid doesn't have to even buy the game to see what it has to offer them. With Generation Alpha already being called the tablet generation, it won't be a surprise to hear about how they know about all of these violent video games much sooner than we ever did. Now, luckily enough, this proposal by the ESRB has since been rejected by the Federal Trade Commission, the FTC. So no one's going to be scanning your face for a while, but that's just it. For a while. While it may have been denied, I don't see this facial age estimation being gone forever. Give it a few more years and I could see this being brought up again. Now, this is just a message for the parents. Keep your kids safe. There's plenty of genuinely fun games for them to play. While their other friends may have Grand Theft Auto 5, it may not be suitable for them. Find a game that's enjoyable for them and that will create a lot of wonderful memories they can look back on. We shouldn't have to just send photos of our kids to keep them safe. Now, that's just what I think about this technology, but what about you? What are your thoughts on how we can keep children safe from mature games? Let me know in the comments. Anyway guys, thank you for watching this video, and remember to chase the chaos.